Thank the gentleman. Chair recognizes the ranking member of the full committee, Mr. Issa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ranking Member Jordan had asked you about transparency pursuant to the special IG for the TARP, and I don't think he got a satisfactory answer. Do you believe that the American people deserve 100% transparency on your actions and your progress?
I do. As we said, this program has been designed to look at affordability, stability, and transparency.
Okay, well, going to the transparency, since you've only done 116,000 permanent loan modifications, or 3% of your goal, and we're well into your time horizon, how can we see in a transparent way your progress so that we can determine whether or not you have any hope of, in a qualified way, in an effective way, achieving anywhere close to your original goal, or if you're not, to take back a substantial portion of the $75 billion, because ultimately, if you're not going to get close to 3 to 4 million in permanent loan modifications, shouldn't we encourage the President to reallocate that money?
Let me answer. I think your first question was about the 3 to 4 million, and it's important to again stress, as I did for Member Jordan, that it was not designed to provide a commitment of modifications to 3 to 4 million people, but rather 3 to 4 million homeowners an opportunity for a permanent modification.
Well, let's go back through. How much of the $75 billion have you used with 116,000 permanent loan modifications?
I don't have the exact answer to that, but it's important to remember that
if we're going to have transparency, then where can I go and find out how much you spent in somewhere close to real time? See, this committee wants transparency. We demand it. We're demanding it of the banks. We're demanding of all kinds of institutions we didn't before. If you come before the Congress in a scheduled hearing and you don't have the answer to a question of how much you've spent, then I would like for the record a place where my staff can go on a daily basis from here forward, click on a public site, or if there is a reason for it not to be public, and a less than public site, and get that answer. Can you make that commitment to me today that you will bring us back that answer?
I can bring you back an answer on the amount spent, yes. But I will again say, because the program only pays for permanent modifications, it has not spent much.
Okay. Do you, by the way, receive a tally on a daily basis or as requested immediately of how much has been spent? Is that a question you ask and get answered periodically?
It's a question asked periodically, but not daily.
But when you ask it, how long before you get an answer usually?
It's hard to say.
Well, I mean, just give me one example. It'd be fine. A day, a week, a month, an hour?
Within the time requested, but that it is published.
You're telling me that this is published, that my staff could go during this meeting and get that information?
From the TARP funds, yes. There's financial statements for the TARP.
Well, the special IG basically said, no, there isn't. That's one of the problems, is the accountability and transparency in his report, which is rather lengthy, comes up with a not so good. This is not a B+ exercise. This is a D- exercise in many of the things that he said. Well, let me move on to just maybe one or two other questions. You're now well enough into it with 116,000 modifications. Let me go to a question that was asked before, maybe to set a stage. How many banks did we give money to in the TARP? Not in your program, in the TARP overall. Did we give money to anybody, or did we loan money to them?
In the TARP?
Yes. We loaned money to the banks, right? They paid back with interest, and most have exited. The largest banks have exited.
Most,
so
yes.
When you're going to the banks asking them to do loan modifications, to basically forgive, in some cases, substantial portions of principal, you haven't given them any money. The only money is the money that you that you, in fact, are standing there out of your $75 billion. Isn't that correct? That their inducement is whatever you bring with your $75 billion in funds. Is that right?
Well, and enforcement under a contract that they've signed,
If they choose to participate with you.
of which over 100 servicers have, covering 90% of the mortgages.
Okay.
And the TARP banks servicers have all signed up.
But those are those who chose. I just wanted to make clear that the gentleman on the other side was implying we gave money and therefore they had an obligation. But the only people who have an obligation are those who signed up for this program, and you're giving them money from the $75 billion. Is that right?
For their performance under the contract, correct.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.